Of course, when one looks at any business school, one has to look at the question of costs and fees. But there are various ways to skin the cat, and here are our fees and some other ideas to go with it. The first year of an MBA is 43,000 Rand. The second year is a similar figure, but it will increase with inflation. In the third year, the fee is halved because the MBA is completed in 2.5 years. Fees cover all tuition, core textbooks, course materials and assessments. Fees do not include travelling expenses to Grahamstown or accommodation and/or meals. A minimum payment of half the annual tuition fees are due before a student may register for the MBA degree. The balance is due by 1 May every year. Now, we've all seen the movie Fame, from which comes that great quote, "They've got what it takes, but it will take everything they've got." And when one looks at an MBA in South Africa today, you might well say, I've got what it takes to complete an MBA, but it costs a lot more than I've got. So we have to look at university finances, how they work, and how we can create some sort of a saving. A university is financed by government subsidies, student fees, and donor funding. The problem that we have is that government subsidies are not increasing fast enough to bring student fees down. The problems all university business schools experience are that government subsidies on MBA programs are not as high as other degrees. Donor funding for business schools is tight because corporate social investment projects take precedence over MBA programs. There are also pressures on bricks and mortar donations for universities, and of course a lot of money is needed for research. There are also stringent limitations on Section 18A tax-deductible donations, where they are made to secure the funding of a particular student. So when one looks at MBA finances, we have a problem. Government subsidies are low, donor funding is low, so it's an expensive project. But there are other ways to do it. What one has to do is look at the relationship between student fees and donor funding. If we can slightly change donor funding to employer funding, perhaps there is a way of obtaining some assistance. These are the 2013 income tax tables for personal income tax, and many prospective students who are employed are currently being taxed at the top end of their scale of about 30%. So when one looks at their current tax computation, say the student is earning 325,000 rands per annum, then taxation per the tables would be 73,800, less the annual tax rebate of 11,440, leaves a total tax bill for the year of 62,360, and a take-home package of 262,640. If the take-home package is then used to pay student fees of 43,000 Rand a year, the money left to live on reduces to 219,640. But there is a way of restructuring the employment contract so as to improve this. Quite simply, it works as follows. We take the cost to employer of 325,000 rands per annum, and we ask that part of the package is paid by way of student fees, which are a tax-free fringe benefit for an employee. This reduces taxable income to 282,000 rands per year, and the taxation per tables reduces to 60,900. The rebate is then deducted, leaving a total tax bill of 49,460 Rand and a take-home package of 275,540 before payment of student fees. After student fees are paid, one has a remainder of 232,540 Rand, which is 12,900 Rand better than in the previous study. It is quite possible for the prospective MBA student to structure the cost of their MBA program into their employment profile, thereby saving 30% of the cost of the program. One must also look at student finances in the context of both the student and the employer. For employers who wish to invest in their employees, it is not unreasonable for the student to suggest to the employer that half the cost of postgraduate education is funded by the employer without deducting it from the student's cost to company. Some may ask the question, is this legal? Absolutely. There are only two requirements contained in the Income Tax Act. One is that you pass, and the second is that there is an obligation to remain with your employer after graduation.